Hey, what's going on, beautiful Jellyfish? It's Tracy, and today I'm going to be doing a video on shows and tells in Magic. This can be applied to, I would say, like all formats, but especially competitive Magic. I have to say that I am like, just of playing like EDH and Modern, I'm like two completely different people, I would say, when I play Magic. When I play Modern, I am like, I don't want to say like a brick wall, but like I really don't give a lot of information around, especially if I'm in like a very competitive like type of setting. But when I'm like jamming EDH with my friends, it's like a totally different story. I'm like so much more casual, like, oh, I misplayed, which we'll get to that idea in a little bit. But basically I want to just, you know, basically say what I mean by like shows and tells in Magic. My definition for it is like giving your opponent free information about the current state of the board, your hand, or your emotional well-being. So the idea is that you don't want to be doing these things, and I feel like it's a very new Magic player thing to do, to like give your opponent like these bits of free information. So this video is on like how to not do that, and then if your opponent does give you free information, to like use that basically effectively. So the first example that I have is something I see frequently, and this can be applied, I would say, like the idea in a lot of different instances, like people who draw a card and then sigh super dramatically, like you pull a card and you're like, oh, another land, and you slam the land down. Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, don't do that, especially if you're doing like competitive events. So your opponent knows that you're flooded, and they also know that you don't want lands at that point. So it is obviously not some sort of information. So you want them to kind of like do the work. Like, you don't want to make assumptions. Like, if you don't draw a land, you don't want to make like an annoyed sound, because like obviously, like, if your opponent's a really good Magic player, they should be noticing those things. They should be missing that you're either missing land drops or you're super flooded. But don't give them that, make that information like easier, and don't make it so it's like this big deal. Like, if you don't draw lands, like, hey, it happens, we've all been there. And like, if you're drawing too many lands, again, that happens, we've all been there. So it's just like, just keep going with the game. Like, try to be like as minimalistic as possible with like the amount of emotions that you are showing. So another solution I would say to that is to keep some lands in your hand. So I would say the solution to this, or like one of the solutions is, first off, like, don't sigh dramatically. But the second thing is sometimes you do actually want to keep lands in your hand, and you having like one card in your hand or like no cards in your hand tells your opponent a lot of information about the current state of the board. They're like, cool, okay, I don't even care about what you're basically going to be doing. So another thing too is, depending on your deck, you actually may want to keep cards in your hand. Lands in your hand. I know that may sound like a thing, like we have this instinct, I think, where it's like, oh, land, boom, go, like that whole thing. But there's a lot of cards that I feel like in the format where you want to discard, or your opponent's gonna make you discard, like by choice, like by it's your choice to discard. I'm particularly thinking of cards like Jace the Mind Sculptor. Like, if you want to take your cards and like pitch them away, like some of those extra lands may be really good fodder for Jace to like put back in your deck. Or a card like Faithless Looting, which is just everywhere right now, because like, let's be real here, it's like the best card draw spell in Modern. So yeah, I would say like definitely it's a good idea to keep some lands in your hand sometimes. Now, a lot of times that's not the right move. It is just the best move to do it, depending too on your curve and all that kind of stuff. But I do think that there are right instances where it is not the right choice to play a land. Okay, the next point I would say is, and a lot of this has to do with lands, which is kind of funny, is like, as soon as you draw a card, you like immediately play the land. This is something that I think is very, very incorrect. Again, even if you've missed like 5 land drops in a row, like, I never just slam a land down when I'm playing competitively, because, okay, the majority of Magic players I know shuffle their cards obsessively, and I am one of those people, and we shuffle our cards a lot, and so like whenever I draw a land, I'm like, cool, okay, like shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. Again, even if I've missed a couple of land drops, it does not matter. Always shuffle your cards. Don't let your opponent know like you just immediately drew that land off the top. There could actually be a very specific reason where you maybe didn't play a land previously if you had them. Again, because your opponent is making you discard, and maybe you needed to discard that land, or whatever the situation may be. Think it through, shuffle your cards. So yeah, that's that. I want to tell a story actually about something that happened that is so relevant to this game, that I have to give my opponent a lot of credit for. He did a really great job of playing against me. So I was playing, I'm on Grixis control in Modern right now, and he was playing Goblins. The matchup is kind of weird, I would say. A lot of people think that it's totally in my favor, which I can agree with. I have a lot of kill spells, and my kill spells really, like, you know, like, all of my removal is just good against them. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes some removal is, like, pick and choose, but all of it is really good against them. So I end up basically just killing a lot of their board. And so I was in a situation where I was at 1 life. By the way, I won that game. And I was at 1 life, and I basically could not tap out at any point because my opponent kept drawing cards and would, like, sometimes play a land and, like, sometimes would play a creature, but, like, he basically knew, like, I had the board locked down. It was later stages of the game where my draws are significantly better in late stages of the game than them. Like, they're gonna draw a 1/1, and that's great, but, like, I'm gonna kill it, and I'm also probably just gonna keep drawing cards. So I was in a situation where I couldn't tap out because I'm at 1 life, and they're just gonna lightning bolt me, right? So I'm in a situation where I'm like, okay, cool, like, I can't tap out, and my opponent, like, basically didn't just boom land go, which again is a thing, especially when you're in a match like that where, like, I'm at 1 life and they're so close to winning. Like, he just kept cards in his hand. He kept like 3-4 cards in his hand, given they were all lands, but like I didn't know that. Like, he was waiting for me to basically tap out, which I didn't because I couldn't. If I'm in a situation where, like, I am a 4, like, he has no cards in his hand, and I'm like, okay, cool, like, I can just easily do all my things and tap out, but, like, I wasn't. And that, to me, is, like, one of the best, like, signs of a good Magic player, is that they don't just immediately, like, drop that. So, I would definitely really follow that example, and I've been in situations like that before where people are just getting really smart at this, where they're playing against control, and they're like, okay, I'm not gonna cast my spell, I'm not just gonna straight out kill you, I'm just gonna wait until you do things at the end of your turn, and then we'll see how like much I can make you tap out, pretty much. And on the flip side, I would say, to being a good control player, it's to not tap out unless you're in a situation where you know you can safely get away with it. So now on the flip side of this, if you're playing against someone who does give you access to free information, I would always take advantage of that. You know, it's not your fault that your opponent just decided to have like 7 lands on board and they just decided to plop them down, when realistically, if their CMC is pretty low, I would have just kept some of those in your hand. So I would just take in any sort of that information that they give you and use it to your advantage. But I hope this video was helpful, just as like a kind of a quick reminder, just to be like, hey, this is not really the right way to play Magic, especially in stages of competitive Magic. So, yeah, I will see you guys in my next video.